Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Paul Miller, and I'm coming to you here live at the Netroots 2026 in Philadelphia. Philly, Philly, Philly. It's been a beautiful experience to be here. So excited just to experience Netroots for the first time. And honestly, it's so out of my norm and out of my comfort zone because I normally am in the education world. This is more of the political arena, but I see the value, I see the purpose, I see people here who just want to see change and create the necessary avenues to make sure that our country gets better. And so we got people here fighting for a lot of the same things. And so it's a beautiful space to be in. I've met some amazing people, some amazing things, but I'm here today to talk to you about from the gutter to greatness. And I think we need to start with who am I? So I am Dr. Paul Miller. I am currently the Chief Academic Officer of Exceptional. We support 28 charter schools in Rochester, New York, and that's just my day job, y'all. That's not my my everyday job. That's my day job. My night job is I'm an author, a speaker. I've had the blessings to speak all over the world. I've spoken in England at Oxford University, all over the United States. Getting ready and just booked and busy to speak in other places. I was speaking here yesterday at Netroots 2026 in Philly, y'all. So uh, they brought me in to to speak about the good me and the hood me, and so as an author and a speaker, and also I forgot to mention that I'm in the process of opening schools. So I have my first school opening in the fall of 2026 here, and we're looking to open some others and support them and make sure that we change communities. But before we could change communities, we got to work on changing ourselves. And so for me, that's what that journey was about. So the good me and the hood me was inspired from the gutter to greatness. So the Gutter to Greatness was actually my fourth book, and it was a journey that was taken after a divorce. And that journey happened because I needed to work on healing. And often as Black men, we don't focus or have the opportunity to focus on healing, and we're afraid to focus on healing. So the Gutter to Greatness of writing it was a healing. It gave me the opportunity to share my story, but also share how do I unpack the baggage? How do I clean the gutter out so that it can be clear, so the water can run freely, so that we have the ability to actually move into our greatness. But as I was doing that, I had another vision. Like God was telling me, you know what? There was a book from my childhood that resonated that I never forgot. And I'm not a huge reader and never was. I love to write. I will read when I need to. But as a reader, there was a book that I never forgot. It was called The Good Me and the Great Me. And that book was all about the two sides of yourself. So I had to put it into my story. So I came up with The Good Me and the Hood Me, which is a version of From the Gutter to Greatness, but for kids. And so just talking a little bit about that, my gutter story, right? And the good me and the hood me is I grew up, again, I'm Dr. Paul Miller. I grew up in Rochester, New York, and I grew up in such a way that I had a lot of trauma. I had a lot of experiences that could have broken anybody. And I was in a household where there was domestic violence. My mother was depressed. She would often lock herself in a room. She would lock herself in a room because she was depressed. And then my stepfather, when he was there, she would lock herself with him to be with him. Or when he wasn't there, she would lock herself in the room because he wasn't there. And then when he was around, he was doing the wrong things. Like I would see this man who was involved in crack cocaine. He was abusing my mother. He was running around and doing all kinds of crazy things. And that often left me alone. That have left me alone to go through my own trials and tribulations, and alone to the aspects of where I was raising myself often because I had a parent who was going through her own trauma. We've fixed it since and we're in a good space. But at the end of the day, that trauma is real. And I had to find a way to survive as a kid to still maintain and be mentally healthy. And so that was where a lot of my gutters began, a lot of my stress, a lot of my trauma began. And it also began the good me versus the hood me. And what ended up happening is when we think about that, there's a duality there. So you have the good me and you have the hood me, right? And they're sitting on your shoulder like the good and the bad angel. And we all have them. We all have that good and we all have that bad angel. And that duality are both sides of our personalities. You have that raw side of that hood you, and then you have that good you who often is who you present and that professional side. But those voices, we all hear those voices. And for kids, what I really wanted kids to understand and get out of this is that if you hear the right voice, you don't have to wait to heal, and you don't have to wait to move into your destiny of who you are, even as a young person. But so often we turn that bad voice up and we turn that good voice down. And so when we turn that good voice down and that bad voice up, what happens is we make a lot of the wrong decisions. And that's what this story is all about, is how do we make the right decisions? How do we become the person that God has meant us to be? And when I think about that, it all starts with your values of who you are, even as a young person. And you think about your destiny and who you're supposed to be. And what God has given us is like this whiteboard, right? And so I deeply believe that God has given us this whiteboard, and this whiteboard is on both sides. And so on one side, the whiteboard is clear and clean and unscathed, untouched. And on the other side, it's completely filled out. And when it's completely filled out, that's filled out with God's plan. So God's plan has put all of those items and those pieces right there for us. And he knows exactly what he wants from us. He knows what that good you is supposed to achieve and who you are supposed to be. On the other side is a clear, clean slate, almost like being a fresh, young baby, newborn baby. That clean slate, that's your free will. That's your free will and your choices. But it's shaped, and that free will is shaped by your origins, by your early challenges, by your growth, by your legacy. And so you have these options to figure out who do you want to be. And so for me, God had all these different items that he had in store for me, and it was on there. It was already filled out. So he knew I was going to have a step parent addicted to drugs. He knew that I was going to get hurt on the playground and bust my head open. He knew that I was going to be raised in adversity and that I was going to have siblings that were incarcerated. He knew that I was going to be in uncomfortable environments, where I was going to go through all of these circumstances and situations, where I was going to meet my first wife early on, and then I was meeting my second wife later in life, and that I was going to be faced with trials and tribulations where I was involved in drug sales, and I was involved in, I had to make some choices. And no matter along the way, these choices were all part of God's plan, and he knew these things were going to happen. I had to decide on who I wanted to be, because that whiteboard was my life and my unique story. And that divine purpose was always there for me. And we have that free will. And that free will is filled with factors and decision making. The free will is filled with your parental guidance, because honestly, I didn't have a lot of that guidance at the early age. I had some values that my mother gave me, but I didn't have a lot of the guidance that I needed. And I had to find my moral compass, because we all know right from wrong, and we know that God has given us the ability to make those decisions. But I had to start listening to God's voice and figure out what God wanted for me. And that was that alignment, that listening, that harmony. And often life is like those old books, those novels. See, when I was a kid, they had these books where you could choose your own ending. I wonder if y'all remember those choose your own ending books. And so those choose your own ending books, I remember back in 4th or 5th grade when you get those, and will you survive type of books. And so those were the books where you read, and then when you get to page 24 or 25, it might say if you go to page 27, it's going to go one way, and if you go to page 35, it's going to go another way. You get to choose your own ending. And so life is kind of like that ending, and choice by choice, I had to make those choices. And so I think about it, and I remember one pivotal choice that I had to make at a time and point in my life where I was driving down the street. And when I was driving down the street, I was riding with a pack of drugs. I was riding with a pack of crack cocaine. And when I was riding down the street with that pack, all of a sudden I heard boof. I had a tire bust. And when that tire bust, I got out and I went to see what was going on, and I went to check it out. And I innately heard God's voice telling me, you know what, Paul, you need to stop. That's not what you're meant to be doing. That's not what I want for you. And this is your warning. And usually warning comes before destruction, y'all. And so the warning comes before destruction. And I heard God's voice telling me that's not what he wanted for me. And so, because guess what? That one choice right there, I had enough of items on me that I could have ended up in jail for a long time. I could have ended up dead. I could end up robbed. It could have been anything that could have changed my life differently, and I would be locked up and wouldn't have the ability to affect lives or do the things that I'm doing right now. So I had to hear God's voice, and I heard that voice, and I stopped doing what I was doing. But as I stopped doing what I was doing, that doesn't mean that everything just gets easier. I had to figure out and start aligning my purpose, start aligning my plan, because life is often like God's video games. Like God is playing video games with us, right? Because I think about the old game. I'm a little old, y'all. So I think about Mario Brothers, right? And you're playing Super Mario Brothers. When you pass certain levels, you usually have, until you get the pattern, the ritual, the routine down, you're going to die. And then when you pass that and form the new habits, rituals, and routines with the game, you end up passing that board. And then you go on to the next board. But each next board gets a little bit harder. And it gets a little bit harder until you conquer it. And as you conquer it, you get your reward. And life is like that. So it's never going to be necessarily easy. It's always going to be, it's almost endless. But at the end of the day, in order to be able to achieve that, you got to find your superpower. To find your superpower, and it's not always what you think your superpower is, right? So my superpower was different than what I thought it was going to be. My superpower, if you ask me what my superpower was when I was young, I thought I was going to play in the NFL. I thought I was going to make it to the league, and I used to play this game. I used to play this game called Shoot 'em Up, Bust 'em Up, right? And what is Shoot 'em Up, Bust 'em Up for people who don't know? It's this game where you throw the ball up as high as you can. And let's say you have 10 friends, and the person who catches the ball tries to make it to one side, and everybody else tries to kill the person with the ball, right? And so I was good at it. I would be able to go over, around, under, through people, and I would make it to the other side. And when I made it to the other side, I felt so accomplished. I felt so alive, like I could make anything happen. I could accomplish anything. And in my head as a kid, I said, this is my sign. I'm going to make it to the league. Look how good I am. And I would do this over and over and over again. And I was just like the champ at it. I was so good at it. But that wasn't God's plan for me. What God's plan for me was to actually be able to use that superpower for something else. And the superpower that God gave me that helped me to get through the other side was this one word. And this one word is perseverance. God gave me the ability to persevere. I wasn't ready for the league. I was good. I wasn't great. I wasn't going to the league. But what I was able to do was I was able to go over, around, under, and through things. And I was able to do things differently. But even though I had this gift and I started to learn what my power was, I often turned that voice off. I turned that voice off and didn't listen to it, because that trauma will destroy you. And that trauma that I went through, it resembled, I always pick people with the characteristics of that trauma that I went through, because hurt people often hurt people. And so, for example, I was married for 16 years. I was in a relationship with that person for 27 years. And there were a lot of things that I feel like she did that weren't right. And a lot of things that I'm not even going to call out here, because my goal isn't to put her on the spot, but to talk about that I also needed to heal, because I wasn't right either. And because I was hurt, I hurt people too. So I would often step outside of my marriage trying to find things that I needed and find things that I wanted, instead of looking to heal myself so I could be better for my marriage. And see what that is, that's your clogged gutter. That's often listening to that bad voice, that hood voice telling you that, you know what, things aren't right. So you have the right to go do what you want to do, when that's not going to help the situation at all. Healing would have helped it. But when you have this clogged gutter, you think about the gutters on your house, they're often clogged. And when they're clogged, what happens, right? The water backs up and you'll damage your roof, you'll damage your exterior, and you'll damage your interior. I don't want that damage anymore. So I had to do the work to start healing and unpacking the boxes, which is the trauma, because as a Black man, I didn't have a safe space to talk about it. So I would often just pack it away and I would close it. And that trauma would just pile up until it overflowed. And that overflowing caused that hurt and that pain, and caused that that ability to listen to that bad voice and turn that bad voice up and the good voice down. Even though I was starting to build these new habits, rituals, and routines to listen to the good voice and change for the better, to be in a space that I was different, I had to reframe that negative self-talk. I had to start thinking about all that negative self-talk, all that hurt, all that pain. I had to start replacing it. And it wasn't my ability, it was my effort. My effort wasn't what it needed to be, and I had to make an effort to make the right choices. So I had to start turning that volume up, listening to the good voice. I had to unpack the boxes. I had to recognize, I had to heal. I had to start following what God's plan was for me. But as I identified that superpower of perseverance, I had to also identify my ability to self-heal. And so I often identify with the superhero Wolverine, right? And why is it that I identify with Wolverine? Because his superpower was healing, where he would often be damaged and would heal while other people were still damaged. And then he could get back in the fight. And that's what I had to start to do and allow myself to be Wolverine. But that also started with discipline, the discipline to make the right choices, to turn that bad voice down and that good voice up, and start to retrain myself, retrain habits, rituals, and routines, and to love myself more. But I started to hear God's voice. And we all can hear God's voice. You all have it inside of you. So what I'm going to ask you to do real quick is to hear God's voice. And I would like everybody in here to repeat after me as you're watching this and you're listening to it. And I'm going to ask you to repeat it as loud as you can. I love myself. I love myself. And I want you to repeat it as loud as you can. Even if you're by yourself, if you're alone, if you're with other people, if you're in the car, wherever you're watching this, repeat that you love yourself. And now make sure you ain't driving or nothing, right? But I want you to close your eyes, and without saying it out loud, I want you to repeat after me internally, and don't say it out loud. I love myself. I love myself. And as you hear that, that's God's voice speaking to you. As your emotions and your perceptions heal, your new actions will bring new attractions. The way you think is how you act. The way you act is what you attract. And you have to start applying this to your new life and your desire to be healed. But in order to do that, I'm going to give you something to walk away with here as you try to move into listening to the good you instead of that hood you, and listening to that good voice. There's a gutter method. That gutter method will be these steps that you can follow. Also, there's the 21-day challenge. If you take the 21-day challenge workbook, moving from your gutter to greatness, it will help you get there along with from the gutter to greatness and the good you and the hood you. These are all meant to design to help you to heal. But the gutter challenge is G, grieve your past. It's okay to be sad about what you went through, especially my black brothers out there, my brothers, my black and brown brothers. If you are grieving, that's okay. It's okay to be sad of what you went through. You have had trauma. It's okay to cry. Real men cry. It's okay to let it out. As you let it out, you have to understand understand the wound. Understand the wound that has been forsaken upon you. And you have to, as you grieve it and then you understand it, then you need to tell the truth about it. You don't need to be quiet about it. As I've shared a lot of my details in my story, I am telling my truth about it. My truth isn't always pretty, but it's helping me be free. It's helping me to give it to God and to let it out. Tell your truth about it. Don't hide it anymore. But then turn your pain into your purpose. This is now my purpose, is to help others. I need to turn my pain into my purpose. As I'm turning my pain into my purpose, I need to continue to equip myself. The E is to equip myself with the tools I need. For me, it was writing. It was also therapy. Yeah, I know they say, black people, let's pray it away. But God also gave us therapists, and he gave us therapists to help us and be that light, or be that person, the right therapist, obviously, that can help guide us through our trials, our tribulations, and help us to heal. So therapy, writing, exercising, just starting to live your life the right way and move out of your gutter and make the right decisions that are in line with God's plan is what the good me wants for you. That's what that angel on your shoulder wants. And as you listen, that voice will become stronger. And the last R is rise. Rise to be the kings and queens that you are, because as kings and queens, you're working on your healing. You don't need to sit in it anymore. Make that choice to be healed. Make that choice to be the good you. Again, that's that gutter method. Make that your priorities to be the people that you need to be. And see, you will now have the ability to walk in your purpose, your divine purpose and destined purpose to be the good you over the hood you, and listen to that voice. So now I have this bestseller on Amazon. And actually, even this morning, y'all, I got a phone call that the good me and the hood me was on an episode of Sesame Street. Like, I remember watching Sesame Street as a kid, and just to think that my work, especially coming from where I come from and who I was, turning to who I am, I never thought that I could have my work influence kids across the world on Sesame Street. And so I encourage you to go pick up this book for your kids, The Good Me and the Hood Me. It will help affect their lives, and it will help them make the right decisions and walk in their destiny. And at that same time, go pick up From the Gutter to Greatness and help yourself heal, and the workbook that goes along with it. So I am Dr. Paul Miller, and I thank you all. I want to give shouts out to Netroots 2026 Philly. I thank you all for listening to me. I thank you all for taking this journey with me and becoming the good you and leaving that hood you, turning that voice down and listening to that good voice. You can go to www.drpmiller.com, www.drpmiller.com. Check me out. I'm on all platforms, From the Gutter to Greatness. I'm on all platforms. Just check me out. These works are meant to help shape and mold, and they will change your lives. They will help you become better people so you can be better leaders for whatever industry you're in. And your kids will also be able to heal, and they will heal now because you don't know what your kids might be going through. Your kids often go through things that we don't even know they're going through it. But this book will help change their lives as well, the same way one very similar changed mine. And this is Dr. Paul Miller, drpmiller.com. Thank you for listening. The good me and hood me. Be that good me all the time.